So here we are into our third folder, which is on word problems and system of equations. So far, you've learned how to solve a system of equations by graphing. You've also learned another method, which is called substitution. Either method will work. It's actually your choice on which method you choose to use. So for some problems, I like to solve them by graphing if I feel like they're already in slope intercept form. And for some, I say, hey, I may decide to just go ahead and use substitution. So it's your strategy. This video here, we're going to work on word problems. I'm more so focused on how to set up the word problem, and then you can choose which strategy to solve it. So I'll solve one of them, but the rest of them I'm just going to set up and then go from there. All right, so here's example one. I just screenshotted each problem so it's on its own separate page. And it says, a used bookstore started to sell used CDs and videos. And we know this is an old school problem because nobody sells CDs and videos anymore. Anyway, in the first week, the store sold 40 used CDs and videos at $4 per CD and $6 per video. The sales for both CDs and videos totaled to $180. We're trying to figure out how many CDs and how many videos did they sell. So all we know is that they sold 40 total, but we don't know how much of each were sold. All right, so system of equations is good. Anytime you have more than one variable and you're trying to solve for each variable, you need more than one equation. Okay, so if I'm looking for to figure out two variables, I need two equations. If you're trying to solve three variables, you need three equations. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with what I have here circled, that there are 40 used CDs and videos. I know typically we use X's and Y's, but for me, when I'm doing word problems, it's easier if I track everything by using letters that remind me of what I'm actually looking at. Okay, so I'm gonna use C for CDs. I'm gonna use a V for videos. If it said we have 40 total, that means the number of CDs plus the number of videos equals 40. That's the total. So that means when I add them all up, I get 40. So this is one of those skills that I'm teaching you right now that's not it's not given to you as far as the equation. You kind of got to just know it. So I'm teaching you now when you see that there's 40 or something, or there's a total amount of something, or a total a certain amount of tickets sold or anything like that, they're trying to get you to take the two variables, add them together, and equal that total. Excuse me. All right, so next we're going to use these numbers with the money. All right, I'm going to try to keep all the money together for this particular problem. It says that it's $4 per CD. And since I have C first in the first equation, it's real nice if you get C first in the second equation. Plus $6 per video. 6V. And that equals $180. Now, realistically, I do not need the dollar signs, so I could go ahead and get rid of those. But the main thing is that I know that the red equation, that bottom equation, is about money. Okay, so that's how those numbers came to be. And like I said, I could remove the dollar signs, and now you just have a typical system of equations. So it's your choice on which method you choose to use. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and solve this one, but this will be the only one that I actually solve on this video because I don't want the videos to get too long. So to solve, I think I'm going to use the substitution method. I'm not going to graph it. If I was going to graph it, then I would say, hey, this is going to be my X and this is going to be my Y, and then I would solve and get it in slope intercept form, okay? But since I'm not doing that, I'm just going to leave them as C's and V's. All right, so first thing I got to do, I got to take the top equation, I got to get one variable on the side by itself. I think I'm going to go ahead and get the C on the side by itself. Got an easy coefficient of 1. We got 40 minus V. Done. Okay, next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna plug it into the second equation right where the C is. So this tells me what C equals. I can replace that with 40 minus V. Make sure you use parentheses as Ms. Sucre stated in the last video. We got 40 minus V plus 6V equals 180. Okay, from here, this is your simple algebra skills from earlier in the year. We all know how to distribute, combine like terms, and solve. Which is why I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time in this video doing this, because I know you guys are pretty comfortable with this skill. Like terms, I got 2V. I got that positive 160 equal to 180. You could keep the 160 in the front if you want to. All right, minus the 160 to the other side. And I got 2V equals 20 which means that V equals 10. So I know that there were 10 videos sold, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that V, I'm gonna plug it back into the first equation. Now you can use the original first equation up here, all right, or you can use the equation that has C on the side by itself, which typically makes things a little bit easier. So right where the V is, I put 10. So 40 minus 10 is 30. That means we sold 30 CDs and 10 videos. Okay, so make sure with word problems, you want to make sure that you're answering the question that was asked. Okay, and you want to make sure you put the correct answer in the correct blank. So if I say how many videos did I sell, you don't want to tell me 30. You want to make sure that you know that the V here stands for the videos, and it's 10 videos. All right, and then there's 30 CDs. All right, so like I said, I'm not going to work the rest of them out in that detail. I'm just going to set up the problems and assume that you know how to do that part. All right, here's number 2. At a sale, Salazar bought 4 t-shirts and 3 pairs of jeans for $181. Okay, that's pretty explicit right there. It just gives it to you what Salazar did. Okay, at the same store, Jenna, she bought 1 t-shirt and 2 pairs of jeans, and her total came to $94. Now keep in mind, we know how much they spent, but we don't know how much the t-shirt is, and we don't know how much the jeans are. We just know how much the total was. All right, the t-shirts were all the same price and the jeans were all the same price. So basically this equation, each red box that I have is its own separate equation. Okay, they didn't do the strategy from last problem where we had totals and then dollar amounts. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up the top equation where I'm gonna say there's 4 t-shirts plus there's 3 pair of jeans, okay, and that equals $181. So in this case, the T stands for how much a t-shirt costs. The J stands for how much the pair of jeans costs. Okay, so that's what I'm solving for. Second equation, I got 1 t-shirt plus 2 pair of jeans equals $94. Now I got my 2 equations, then I will solve. So now this is where you decide, am I going to use substitution? Okay, if I was to use substitution, I probably would take the bottom equation. I like the equations that have a 1 for the coefficient. So in front of the t, there's a 1. That's the equation. Okay, I just slightly set it up for you. But that's the equation that I find that is pretty easy to get a variable on the side by itself. So if I was going to use substitution, minus the 2j over, and then I have 1t equals 94 minus 2j, which is the same thing as t. If you wanted to take the time to divide by 1, which we know is an unnecessary step, you would just get this. So now I have my t, and I could take that and substitute that in and find out what the j is. Okay? So like I said, I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm really just focused on making sure you guys know how to set up these word problems. All right, next one. This one's a little bit trickier, so they kind of get a little bit harder as we go. All right, for a future Teachers of America fundraiser, Denzel sold food as shown in the table. So it says he sold 11 more subs than pizza. And it also says he earned a total of $233. And it wants us to write and solve a system of equations. I'll let you solve it, but I'll help you set it up. So here in the chart, it shows that pizza is $5 each. It also shows that the subs are $3 each. So I think we can easily set up something that says $3 for subs plus $5 for pizza. Doesn't matter if you put the 5p first and the 3s second. No, that's your choice. Okay, and then that totaled to 233. So that's one obvious equation. But if you notice, I've pretty much used almost all of the numbers that were given to me in this equation. Okay, so now I got to figure out the other equation, which is this underlined part. It says he sold 11 more subs than pizza. So there was more subs than pizza sold. So I know that the subs is equal to 11 more, that's plus, than is the switch word, however many pieces we got. So instead of 11 plus the p, because of the word than, I'm going to switch it and say the second equation is p plus 11. Okay, now in this case here, totally up to you how you decide to solve it. Again, it's already set up for substitution. You could take this p plus 11, plug that in right there for S, and you'll be on your way. You could solve this one. I mean, you could graph it. All right, technically, I could say, hey, I want my S to be my y equals x plus 1, and then say that this is 3y plus 5x equal to 233. Okay, that's one way to do it. I definitely will use substitution because I sure wouldn't want to have to worry about fractions and all that stuff when dealing with uh, graphing. Okay. All right, so substitution, that's a good way to go. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, example 4. It says the caverns of Sonora have two different tours. The Crystal Palace tour, I think you understand I'm going to call that C, and the Horseshoe Lake tour, that's going to be our H. The total, there's that word again, the total length of the tour is 3.25 miles. So that means when you take the first tour plus the second tour, it equals a total of 3.25. So that word total there told me that those two things needed to be added together. The second one, or the second, excuse me, the third sentence, okay, is the Crystal Palace tour is a half mile less than twice the distance of the Horseshoe Lake tour. And Crystal Palace is first, so that's the C. So if I write it as I read it, Crystal Palace C is equal a half mile, that's 0.5, less means subtract. There is our switch word than, so I'm going to move this 0.5 and put it at the end, half of a mile, okay? And not to mention, which I did fail to pay attention to, but actually we'll keep going. Half mile less than twice, two times, twice the distance of the horseshoe. All right, two times. So there's my system of equations. Again, it looks like it's already set up to use substitution. Since we have C equals already, you can just plug that into the other equation. All right, last two examples. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up number 5, and then I'll prompt you to set up number 6. Okay, so number 5, it says Nari and his sister Alexis each have a saving account for college. In April, Nari's account had a balance of $2,000, so he has $2,000 in the account, and he plans to deposit, which means to add, an additional $50 per month. There's that per month, we know there's the variable. Okay. At the same time, Alexis, a totally different person, she has a balance in her account of $1,600, and she plans to deposit $100 per month. And there's your variable. Okay, predict when Nari and Alexis will have the same amount. So they both start with different amounts of money, and they're putting different amounts of money into the account, and we want to see when are those going to be equal. All right, so let's start with Nari. First, his account. I'm going to start off with, we could go traditional and do Y equals. Okay, his balance, his total is going to equal 2,000 plus $50 per month. Okay, if I wanted to do B for balance, I could have put B equals instead of Y equals. And if I want to do M for month, I could have did that as well. Okay, so you can do M and B, or you can do X and Y, your choice. I went more traditional this time around. All right, Alexa's equation, her balance is $1,600 plus she's going to deposit $100 per month. So as you can see, he's starting off with more money in the bank, and then he's only putting in $50 every month. She's starting off with a little bit less, but she's going to put in double the amount that he's putting in. So that means at some point she's going to catch up to him, and we're trying to figure out when. Because both equations are already in slope-intercept form, this is a time that I would use graphing. Okay. A problem like this, a good time to graph might be using the Desmos calculator, but you can still use substitution. So substitution, I still might say, hey, this is solved for y. Go ahead and plug it into the second equation for y. My equation will look like this. 2,000 plus 50x equals, I'm running out of space, so let me go ahead and slide all this stuff over. Let's see. Try to move this over. Let's see if we can squeeze it in here. But right here on this side, I would have 1,600 plus the 100x. Okay. That looks a little clumsy, but that's what I would do as far as substitution is. You take that top equation and plug it in for y. 2000 plus 50x would equal the 1600 plus 100x, and then you would solve that. So that's all I did is take the top equation right where it says y equals, plug it into the second equation. All right, that's all I'm doing for you. Number 6, what I'll do is I'll read it to you and I'll just make sure you understand how to set it up. It's very similar to number 5. It says, in the fall, the Math Club and Science Club each created an internet site. You are the webmaster for both sites. It's now January and you are comparing the number of times each site is visited each day. Predict when the two sites will be the same. Okay, so Science Club, you're going to write the equation for the Science Club. It tells you what they started with, just like Naire's bank account, and it tells you how it's increasing. You should know what the word increasing means. Your rate as your slope, 25 visits per month. So that slash is another way to write per. 25 visits per month, okay, or daily visits per month. The bottom equation is similar, so this would be like Alexis's equation. The Math Club, they start off at 200. They're increasing, and their rate is 50 visits daily per month. Okay, you should be able to set up two equations very similar to the way I did it in number 5, and then solve all these problems, numbers 1 through 6. I want you to solve them, and then I want you to check your answers with me.